Hey everyone, Josh here. So my wife's CJAA has a little bit of an issue. I tried to find there's a solution to it. I couldn't find anything, and I don't think I'm the only one with this issue. So I decided to make my own fix for it. Okay, so if you get up nice and close here, you might have a rough idea of what I'm trying to do. So I've made a pile of videos on this car with diagnosing emission related issues. Sometimes you have to take stuff off to kind of diagnose the issue, and obviously you're putting it back on because removing emissions components are legal. So you end up with all of these connectors exposed to the elements, just kind of hanging out in the engine bay and not doing a whole lot. So first off, they don't look the nicest just hanging out. Some of them you can kind of tuck and hide a little bit, but like the swirl flap here is kind of here. One of the differential sensors, same kind of thing. You can kind of tuck it away a bit. You get a bit of a mess back here. But the biggest issue is underneath the car, especially when you hit something and you ripped your pan or the belly pan off, you end up with these connectors hanging out. And they get full of salt. So when you go to put it back together like that, that's not very good. So that's why I made these dummy plugs, or blank plugs, I guess you can call them. So you can plug them into the female side of the harness. A little tricky with one hand here. Like that. And then it's got a little tab on the back side, so you can put zip tie and hold it to the harness and tuck it away nicely. So in farm equipment, which I work on full time, it's not uncommon to have basically extra plugs in the harness that aren't used. Depending on the spec of tractor or combine, whatever you bought, different options and stuff are installed. So you'll have basically the mate, which this would be the male plug, just hanging there with no pins in it. So that was my first idea, was to go to who makes these, which would be TE Connectivity, and buy the pins, or buy the plugs basically. So that's the 2-pin there, which that would be the one there. But the issue is that's the pre-turbo EGT sensor, which we didn't remove. What we did remove was a pre-DPF and post-DPF EGT sensors, and they have these cool little locating tabs so stuff can't get plugged in the wrong places. Also makes it hard to find the connector. The other issue is the 6-pin one. There's two different kind of connectors. One's got a lock on this side and one's got one on this side. So it's not really easy to find these connectors. You can also buy this whole kit on Amazon for $189, but same thing, you're running into issues where these aren't the ones that you need. So I decided to buy a 3D printer and make these up, which wasn't wasn't the easiest, but we've got 2-pin, 3-pin. I need to make a 4-pin yet, but then 5-pin and the 6-pin. So nice and easy. So I want to make all of them with the wider tabs there because I ran into some issues. So these have been on my wife's car for 10 weeks. Biggest issue was the 5-pin flat, but also went to the swirl flaps, was that lock kind of got pushed in. So I made it thicker on the inside, and I reefed on the connector pretty hard and that piece came off. So I made a nice thicker one, as well as made it thicker on the inside where the lock is. So I'm going to do that with the rest of them here yet. So the idea is a little bit of dielectric grease inside the connector. Plug it together so it locks. And then grab your zip tie and gently zip tie it to the harness, so then it would sit down like that. It's on the harness, kind of looks like it's supposed to be there. A little bit more than just that harness or the plug hanging out. So basically the connectors you would need, two 2-pins for both of the pre-DPF EGT sensors. You've got a 5-pin on the swirl flap. You've got a 5-pin underneath at your exhaust flap. You've got the 6 pins. This would be the low pressure EGR. That would be your high pressure EGR, which is the same connector. And then your O2 sensor or NOx sensor would have been this different style 6-pin. We've got another 2-pin EGT sensor, which would be the after the DPF. And then you've got 2 3-pins, which would be your differential pressure sensors for the DPF as well as the EGR. We've got an EGR temp, which again would be another 2-pin. And the 4-pin that I don't have yet is the ASV valve, which some people put a race pipe in there. So if you guys are interested in one or multiples of these, I'll put a link in the description. I've got a little Shopify store of a few little niche TDI things that I'm kind of making for myself and making multiples in case other people want them. But yeah, they're 3D printed by me, so there's going to be some imperfections, but they're printed with ABS, so it should hold up to the heat and the oil that's inevitably going to get on it in a TDI's engine base. So they've held up good for the 10 weeks that I had them on my wife's car. I think with a few little modifications that I want to make here yet, they should be set. So that's going to be it for today, and thanks for watching.